I shouldn't have taken it, but at the time it felt like nothing more than a coincidence, like something small and meaningless that just happened to fall into my hands. The kind of thing you don't think twice about until it much later, when it's already too late to undo it. I moved into that apartment at the end of November, when the days were already short and the evenings seemed to arrive almost immediately after noon. And maybe that's why I didn't notice how unnaturally dark it felt inside, even during the day. The place was cheap, far cheaper than anything else in that area, and I found it almost instantly, which in hindsight should have been my first warning. The landlord told me the previous tenant had left in a hurry and didn't take everything with him, but he brushed it off like it was nothing unusual, and I didn't push it because I needed somewhere to live, and I needed it fast. The first day felt normal, almost disappointingly normal. Like all the unease I had felt while signing the lease had been nothing but nerves. The apartment was small but livable, with an old wooden floor that creaked under every step and walls that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. There was a faint smell in the air, something stale and hard to identify, like a place that had been closed off for too long. I didn't really start noticing things until that evening, when I was unpacking boxes in the living room and realized that one of the drawers in an old cabinet was already slightly open, like someone had just been there before me. I assumed it was left that way by the previous tenant, so I pulled it open the rest of the way, expecting to find dust or maybe some forgotten junk. Instead, there was a small object inside, wrapped in what looked like an old piece of cloth. I remember hesitating for a moment, not because I thought it was dangerous, but because it felt strangely personal, like I was about to go through something that didn't belong to me. But curiosity got the better of me, and I unwrapped it slowly. It was a small black rectangular box no larger than my hand, with a smooth surface that reflected just enough light to show my distorted reflection. There were no markings on it, no hinges, no visible way to open it, and yet it didn't feel like a solid object. It felt hollow somehow. I should have left it there. Instead, I put it on the table. That night was the first time I heard the footsteps. At first, I told myself it was just the building settling, the old wood expanding and contracting. But the more I listened, the harder it became to believe that. The steps weren't random. They had a rhythm, slow, measured, almost careful, like someone walking barefoot across the floor. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was coming from another apartment, maybe above me, maybe next door. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The sound was too close, too precise, like it was moving through the same space I was in. At some point it stopped, and I must have fallen asleep. The next morning, I found the box on the kitchen counter. I was sure I had left it on the table in the living room. I even tried to replay the moment in my head, picturing exactly where I had placed it, but there it was, sitting in the middle of the counter like it had always been there. I laughed it off at first, blaming it on exhaustion, on the stress of moving, on anything that sounded logical. But that was the moment something shifted, because from that point on, things didn't just happen at night. They started happening all the time. At first it was small things that were easy to ignore if you didn't think about them too much. Objects slightly out of place, doors not quite as you left them, shadows that seemed to linger a little longer than they should. And always, no matter where I went in the apartment, the box was there. Sometimes on the table, sometimes on the floor. Once on the edge of my bed. I started telling myself I was moving it without realizing that I was forgetting, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But that explanation started to fall apart the moment I decided to test it. One evening before going to bed, I placed the box inside a drawer in the bedroom and locked it. I checked it twice, then 3 times. I even pushed a chair against the drawer. That night the footsteps came back. But this time they didn't stay in the distance. They came closer, step by step, until they stopped right outside my bedroom door. I remember holding my breath, listening so carefully that my ears started ringing, waiting for something, anything to happen. And then the door handle moved, just slightly. A slow, deliberate turn, like someone testing whether it was locked. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. After a few seconds it stopped, and then the footsteps moved away, I didn't sleep at all that night. In the morning, the drawer was open. The chair was still in place. The lock was untouched, and the box was gone. I found it in the bathroom, on the sink, right next to the mirror. That was the first time I noticed something else. My reflection looked normal, but for just a split second as I leaned closer, I thought I saw something behind me. Not clearly, not fully, just a shape, something that didn't belong. I turned around immediately. There was nothing there. But when I looked back at the mirror, the feeling didn't go away. It got worse. From that moment on, I couldn't shake the sensation that I wasn't alone in that apartment. I started researching the place, digging through old listings, forums, anything I could find. And that's when I came across a short, almost forgotten post about the building. It mentioned a tenant who had lived there before me, someone who had complained about noises, about things moving, about feeling watched, and then one day he just disappeared. No explanation, no trace. The post ended with a single line. He kept talking about a box. That was the moment I decided to leave. I didn't pack everything, I didn't even try. I just grabbed what I could and walked out, leaving the rest behind, including the box, which I placed back inside the cabinet where I had found it, wrapped in the same cloth. I thought that was the end of it. But a few nights after moving into a new place, I woke up to a familiar sound. Soft, slow, measured footsteps, moving across the floor, not in the hallway, not outside. Inside my apartment, I didn't move. I didn't turn on the light. I just lay there staring into the darkness, hoping that I was imagining it. And then I heard something else, a faint sound, right next to my bed, like something small being placed on a surface. I didn't need to look, because deep down, I already knew. It hadn't stayed behind. It had followed me. This story was told to me by someone who experienced it themselves, and to this day, they still don't fully understand what followed them out of that apartment. I collect stories like this from real people, real experiences that can't always be explained, and this is just one of many. If this one gave you chills, there are more waiting for you on my channel.